When it comes to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I think a lot of fans have a list of things that they wish happened differently. I also have such a list. Let's break it down. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button and let's get right into this. I want to start off by saying this kind of a video is just for fun. Star Wars fans love to look back at all the iconic decisions and moments and turns within this series and think about and speculate about what would have happened had they done something differently. Here's a list of things that Star Wars could have done differently in other movies, and these are all subjects that I've had long conversations with different nerds about. Number one, what if Luke Skywalker had actually turned at the end of Return of the Jedi? Number two, what if Anakin had actually beat Obi-Wan on Mustafar? Number three, what if Yoda had beat Palpatine on Coruscant? And number four, what if Leia had been trained by Yoda instead of Luke? And so you see, this is not another video just to poop all over the sequel trilogy, and these are very similar to those what ifs that we just talked about. Now, I will say this, I am sort of going back into the sequel trilogy, and I've been talking a lot about this and thinking a lot about this lately. So there is a slight difference with some of the things I will bring up because they would have legitimately made the sequel trilogy better, in my opinion, but they're also just fun things to think about with regards to the canon. The sequel trilogy is not going away. The sequel trilogy is not going to be retconned, but I do think it's okay to have these kind of conversations about how things could have been different. Oh, and we're also saving the really juicy stuff for the end of the video. So we'll start with the most basic one. Now, this has to do with the ending of The Force Awakens. The first thing that I would have changed to the sequel trilogy, and an interesting thing to think about had it been different in the canon, is if Rey would have lost to Kylo Ren at the battle on Starkiller Base. Now, I think personally the biggest reason I would have preferred this change, and I would have been interested to see what would have happened if this would have been the way it went, is because the end of The Force Awakens, I think, was designed to endear the audience to the Rey character, but it actually functioned to endear the audience more to the Kylo Ren character. What I'm basically saying is all of the things that happened at the end of that movie that culminated in the fact that Rey, on the edge of that cliff, gets the Force into her and then defeats Kylo Ren, all of that stuff lets the audience actually like Kylo more than it allows the audience to like Rey. Now, this is not true for all Star Wars fans. Many Star Wars fans, after Kylo killed Han Solo, were done with that character. They were never going to like that character. They couldn't believe that he killed Han Solo. It was over for that character. But many others could instantly feel that this was not what Kylo actually wanted to do. That once he did it, as soon as he did it, he was split in half. He was actually the one receiving the most pain in this moment. Not Rey, who had just met Han Solo, but Ben, the son of that character, the one that was being pulled to the dark side. We felt more for him. And to be honest, on the flip side of even that, even though it's really a connected point, it actually made a lot of audience members not like Rey as much. This was actually where all of the Mary Sue stuff really comes from. The fact that Rey, with no training, is able to defeat a disciple of Luke Skywalker and a disciple of freaking Snoke, meaning he's actually just a student of Palpatine, it just doesn't make any sense. It really just showed that Rey's just going to win. She could just call upon the Force and just be given more or less a victory in a moment where she didn't really earn it. So believe it or not, this ending done the way that they did it is actually the beginning of a lot of the problems for the sequel trilogy. It made people think Rey was a Mary Sue. It didn't allow audiences to be as connected to Rey as they were for Ben Solo, and it created a whole swath of Star Wars fans that were way more interested in Kylo Ren as a character than they were of Rey, who was being pushed as the main protagonist of this entire trilogy. Now, the number two, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but it does have all to do with Luke Skywalker and the depiction of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. This is a point that's been made to death, but I think most Star Wars fans have come to accept that the treatment of Luke Skywalker is the biggest sin of the sequel trilogy for a lot of Star Wars fans. Many fans don't have a problem with it, and that's totally cool. But I think even those fans can acknowledge that doing what they did to the Luke Skywalker character was a major transgression that allowed a lot of people that had maybe just little problems with, Disney Star Wars here and there to all come together under a single thing that they didn't like, and that would be the treatment of Luke Skywalker. And I think the solution here is pretty simple. Just simply do not make Luke Skywalker a coward. Do not make it the reason that he doesn't help people out. There was just a lot of stuff done there that was way out of character for the Luke Skywalker that many fans knew. And on top of that, you didn't allow Luke Skywalker to go into God mode. The Force projection bit at the end of the movie is really, really cool, but why wouldn't you just allow Luke to actually transport himself there, or to actually show up there? And why wouldn't you let Luke Skywalker do a bunch of God mode stuff, pulling TIE fighters out of the sky, making those AT-ATs smash into each other, etc., etc. Luke should have gotten his God tier moment, and he shouldn't have been a coward. I'm just going to leave it there. Feel free to argue about that in the comment section. Number 3 is a really interesting one, and had this happened, I really truly believe it would have set The Rise of Skywalker up for a lot of success, instead of setting it up to be a confusing mess trying to make sense of a disjointed trilogy. I would have loved to see it if Rey took Kylo's hand at the end of The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi did a ton of bold things. Some would argue too many bold things that deteriorated the ethos and the themes of Star Wars. But I think the biggest problem I have with the movie is the fact that it does all of that, but doesn't take it the full way. It doesn't fully embrace the things it was setting up in the movie, and it should have gone dark side Reylo. Rey should have taken the hand of Kylo Ren and joined him to rule the galaxy. Now, this would have shocked the fan base, really and truly, but it would have set us up to be completely just blown away and interested in what could be happening in Episode 9. It would have been compelling to see the two of them struggle about the nature of the Force, the nature of the dark side, and the nature of the light side. It would have been fascinating to see them talk about what they want to do with future Force users. What was the legacy of the Jedi and the Sith that they would pass on? Kylo saying that he's done with the Sith, he's done with the Jedi and forging his own path feels right. Rey embracing that path, trying to walk it with Kylo, but bringing in the light side of that equation would have been very compelling to see. They would have also struggled on how to actually rule the galaxy. You could just imagine a world in which Rey is appealing to the better nature of Kylo, trying to bring the light side in, trying to be a benevolent ruler, and Kylo bringing in the dark side, trying to be efficient, doing things behind her back that he just feels is the right thing to do, causing a fissure between the two of them, which I think would have just been way more compelling than what we got in Episode 9. It's like if Lucasfilm and Ryan really wanted to do much more complex things with the Star Wars mythos, this would have been the way to actually accomplish that. As it stands, my big problem with The Last Jedi is that it messes up a bunch of stuff, it derails, it goes in different directions, but seemingly only for the sake of doing those things. It doesn't follow through on it to an actual ending in which Rey takes Kylo's hands and Darkside Reylo manifests itself into all sorts of very interesting deconstructive themes for the last movie. It just does what it does to be special. I don't feel like it actually follows through on its own promises. And then there's number 4, the most important change, the craziest thing that could have happened in the sequel trilogy, and this would have been, what if Anakin Skywalker was the one to save Ben Solo? I mean, there's not even a shred of this in the movie in Episode 9. There's not even a hint of this in The Rise of Skywalker, and yet it is the most obvious thing to do to pull the through line from the movies that George made to the movies that Disney made. It's almost like Disney knew what they had to do, but they weren't willing to go all the way with it. It's almost like they weren't willing to acknowledge what was really and truly the heart of all of the other Star Wars movies, and that would be Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. And to create a character in Kylo Ren that essentially is driven by the ideas of his grandfather, he idolizes his grandfather, to have that character that he idolizes come back and have a conversation with him in Force Ghost form and to lay out why going to the dark side is the wrong move, why when he was Darth Vader, it was the wrong move, to explain what the Emperor did to the Skywalkers and to the galaxy, using them as the Emperor used everything else that he did and everyone else that he was involved with. That kind of a story could have been incredibly compelling. To see the Chosen One actually sit down and explain this to his grandson, then to have his grandson turn because of that, to have Anakin be the one that not only saved Luke, but then came back to save Luke's nephew, to save his grandchild once again from the clutches of evil, from the manipulation of the Satan-like figure that was Palpatine. It would have been fantastic. It would have absolutely redeemed the sequel trilogy in many ways, and it would have been a very fitting ending. And instead, we get a disembodied Anakin speaking to Rey of all people. Again, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So those are my 4 what ifs. Those are my 4 changes that had these happened in the sequel trilogy, they would have made a much more compelling story. But I, of course, want to know what you think about this. And were there any other moments throughout the sequel trilogy that you wish would have went a different way? And feel free to explain your fan fiction outcomes of what that would have done to the story in the comment section below. And now let's shout out James Tankerslay. Yes, indeed, the first words Lando said in The Rise of Skywalker were, "Follow me." And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what is the alien species to which Watto belongs to? That's right, what kind of alien was Watto? Answer that question in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure you like it and consider checking out our live streaming channel where we do live streams all throughout the week, and we just launched memberships which come with a bunch of cool perks, including behind the scenes live streams and sweet emojis that you can use during our streams. Consider checking it out today, as it does help us out. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.